Welcome to yet another FPL video. Now, so much has happened during this international break, and I made a video where I did an overview of Game Week 8 and how that went, and also talking about my transfer plans going forward. And, well, this is why I always say, try to stick to your plan, but you also have to be flexible because things can happen, and injuries, COVID, especially during international break. Try hold your transfers until the end, and I've been doing that all season, but the 1 week that I haven't, it has cost me. And it shows the importance of holding your transfers, even if you have to eat up a few price rises and stuff like that, and your squad value might not be as high as you could have it if you just made early transfers. But there's always a risk. And I'll be delving into the situation I have with my own team and what I'm probably going to be doing because I've got a lot of problems with my team already, and obviously a wildcard would be hugely beneficial, but I don't have it anymore, and the players I did bring in on the wildcard, they're either injured or now need to be displaced. So it's a mixture of misfortune and also just maybe some bad decisions in that moment, and that's why it's always important to hold the wildcard for situations like these. But there's also a chance of some of these flagged players to still play by game week 9, and I'll be explaining all of that, and I'll be explaining some of the alternatives, some of the things I could end up doing if all of these injuries and COVID cases and stuff like that are more long term. So yeah, I'll be going straight into it. But like I said, if you want to check out my Game Week 8 preview and also my original transfer plans going forward, then click the card that you see at the top of your screen. But without further ado, this is my team, and as you can see here, I've got 3 flag players. You're like, oh, it's not too bad, Robertson could have been a precaution rather than a proper hamstring injury. Klopp just wants him back because too many injuries already. Salah, there's still actually a chance of him playing because he's going to have a swab test on Thursday, and if he tests negative for COVID, then he could actually come back to England, train, and he could actually still play on the weekend, although it's a slim chance, of course. And then with Chilwell, it's a back injury, but it could be fine. But there's also Wilson, who could make it for the Chelsea game. It has been confirmed by the latest scans, but he's also another one who could not play. So as you can see here, I've got 4 major issues here. Salah, according to FPL anyway, is the least likely of anyone to play. But it's a bit of a madness because squad depth is important. But just like Liverpool right now, I've got so many injuries and it's hard for me to fit in, a full starting 11. So if it comes to the worst case scenario, I'll just be looking at the press conferences, see what the managers say 1 or 2 days before the games start, and also obviously the deadline, and I'll just be making transfers. I don't mind taking hits at this point because I just want to have a proper starting 11 and I want to rack up as many points as possible. But it's a very tough situation. But apart from that, if most of these players are kind of fine, let's say maybe 1 or 2 of them miss out, this would be my team. If Salah is fit and he actually can play, he will be my captain. But because of the situation right now, he's just in there, and if he doesn't play, he'll just be substituted out because it'd be a bit stupid if Salah's just on the bench and then he comes on for a few minutes. It's either he starts or he's not in the squad at all. That's how I see it. But yeah, that's why he's in my starting 11. But yeah, I'm not going to captain someone who, at the moment anyway, who looks like he might not even play at all. But it's just such a complicated situation. As for my defenders, I just brought in Chilwell, and look what happens. He gets an injury against Belgium. And yeah, it's just that's why you have to hold your transfers. Even if I missed out on that 0.1 million price rise, what's the point if he's going to be injured now? As for Robertson, supposedly a hamstring injury, but he hasn't been ruled out of Scotland's next few games, and he could just be getting left out of the squad just to come back to Liverpool in one piece, because Liverpool actually don't have any of their senior defenders playing at the moment, and having Robertson would be a big boost because they've pretty much got no one. Fabinho could be back after the international break, but the likes of Joe Gomez sustained a pretty significant injury, which impacts my UCL fantasy team, unfortunately. Then you've got the likes of Trent, got an injury against Manchester City. Van Dijk, obviously we know, got injured the other week and he's out for a couple of months. So yeah, Liverpool have some crazy injury crisis. And also, don't forget, the news just came out today, I think Jordan Henderson is also injured apparently. So unless it's Klopp just, trying to make sure everyone's back ready for game week 9 for Liverpool, it's looking like an injury crisis there, and they haven't had one in such a long time. I see some people blaming Klopp, which is a bit strange because most of these are happening in international duty, and some of them are pretty much because of opposition players like Pickford. But such a crazy situation. It's something that Arsenal have had to deal with over the years, and that's how it goes. But in terms of captaincy, having no Salah just opens the doors. As you can see here, I've got Calvert-Lewin and Grealish, and they were not people I really considered before this. It was just an easy no-brainer, Salah at home. Even if it's Leicester, who are top of the league, and they've been unbeaten away from home. Yeah, it's just Salah. But now, and in this moment in time, there's also Son I'm actually considering because of his record against Manchester City. But Manchester City's defence has been pretty good recently, and Spurs have been more conservative. So I don't see, a hat-trick from Son or something like that, and hopefully I haven't jinxed it there. But I think the standout captaincy options in my team anyway are Grealish and Calvert-Lewin. Now, Calvert-Lewin has the better fixture because Brighton have better defensive statistics than Fulham. And also Everton, they've got 3 losses in a row in the Premier League. So they definitely need a reaction. And yeah, I think, Richarlison's back. He actually played for Brazil. He missed an open goal against Venezuela, by the way. But yeah, James Rodriguez is there. Everton pretty much have their full starting 11. I believe Seamus Coleman is still fine, just like he was in the last game. So Everton have a big boost there. They've got their full starting 11, which is pretty impressive. It's just their squad depth, which is lacking a bit. So Calvert-Lewin could be my captain. If not, it will be Grealish against Brighton and Hove Albion. But like I said, if Salah is declared fit in the conference and, Klopp says there's a chance of him playing on Saturday or Sunday, whatever, I will risk it and I'll play Salah. But otherwise, it's between Calvert-Lewin and Grealish. And to be fair, I might just lean to Grealish because of his home form, because of his form in general. And Aston Villa have just been pretty good recently. Even in the games like Southampton where they were struggling and getting smacked 4-0, they made a late reaction. They got a few goals. I know Southampton took their foot off the gas, but Aston Villa are a good side at least this season. And in terms of my bench, I mean, if Wilson is declared fit to play and whatever, he can come in, or I'll just start him over someone. But it's seriously, it's an injury crisis in my team. And that's why it's important not to panic, important not to make early transfers like I've done, because the 1 week I've done it, this is pretty much the only week I've done it, I've paid the price, not only on this game, but also UCL Fantasy. I don't even want to talk about, some of the people I brought in because literally they just get injured or COVID. So it's a very tough situation right now, but taking some hits in situations like this, it's not the end of the world. You can still have a great week, even with, -8 hits or whatever. But of course, it's not ideal. And that's why wildcards are very, very helpful in situations like this. But as for Salah, I know a lot of you will be saying, what do I do with Chilwell? What do I do with Robertson, with Salah, with Wilson? Because I know a lot of you will have these players. Now, I'll go through one of these, or each one by one, obviously. We'll start with Salah. In my opinion, even if he misses this week, I personally would not get rid of him because he should be back by game week 10, and you want him. You definitely want this guy. He could be captain against Brighton away, even in the home games. Salah, Salah at home is kind of a no-brainer in terms of captaincy, even if he's playing, some of the best teams in the country. So, for me personally, I would keep Salah. But if, like some of you just want people like Bruno and stuff like that, and you're going to captain him, or maybe, let's say, Ziyech or whatever, or Sterling, KDB, then fair enough. And actually, Sterling's another one who's got an injury concern. So, very mad situation we've got going on. But my opinion, in terms of Salah, I know he's facing a price drop very soon, according to most FPL price websites. I would still keep hold of this guy. As for Callum Wilson, if he's out for more than just this week, then I would say, get rid of him. Get maybe someone like Watkins for the fixtures that they have. Maybe get, let's say, Bamford, stuff like that. But otherwise, if it's just for this week, I'd probably keep him. Like I said, I'm trying to avoid hits, and that's what I said in my last video. I want to, I have a plan. I might take hits along the road, so maybe in the next few weeks, -4s here and there to get in players like Ziyech, players like maybe Bamford or Watkins if need be, Bruno Fernandes. But otherwise, I would prefer not doing that. But, if Wilson's out for a long time, of course, get rid of him. But otherwise, if it's just this week, I would also suggest holding him. And the same thing with I can't even speak. The same thing with Robertson. However, what I will say with this guy is that there are probably better options anyway, because Liverpool have a depleted back line. They haven't been keeping clean sheets even with their full back line. The only positive I can draw out from this situation if Robertson is fit is that Liverpool might focus more on defence and try to shore it up at the back so they can obviously, be harder to beat, because in this moment in time, teams are going to fancy themselves against Liverpool. I mean, Leicester, normally at Anfield, would be, happy with a draw or something. But now they'll probably want to get a win here because this is the best chance they have probably not in their lifetimes, but, for this season, definitely, or within the next couple of years. This is the time to break Liverpool's, formidable Anfield record. And this could be the week where it finally crumbles. But Liverpool could shore up at the back and just focus more on defence, be a bit more conservative, not, have their fullbacks bomb on. And which fullbacks are they going to be? Not sure. Probably that Greek guy they got in, Robertson, if he actually is fit. But we'll have to wait and see. So, yeah, in terms of Robertson, in terms of taking major hits, I would suggest no. But Robertson is someone you could just get rid of anyway. And if Chilwell's fit, get Chilwell in. You can get Kufal. You can get the likes of Zuma. You could get, I wouldn't say Bellerin, but, some people still like Arsenal defenders, so fair enough. You could get Matt Targett from Aston Villa. Kyle Walker-Peters or Vestergaard. There's a lot of options in defence this season. So, yeah, you could save a lot of money and, just get rid of that dilemma anyway. And that's something I might do for next week, and I'll be talking about it. And as for Chilwell, if he's only out for 1 week, I would suggest keeping him. But otherwise, if he's out for long term, then definitely get rid of him. So pretty much the only player I suggest getting rid of, even if it's a short-term injury, 1 week or whatever, is Robertson, because he's someone that you can find better value elsewhere. But if Chilwell, Salah and Wilson and even Sterling are out for 1 week, it's worth keeping them. Now, what if, like me, you have 4 or 5 injuries, COVID cases, maybe more to your team? Now, in that case, if you have a wild card, I would suggest potentially using it. But some of these players that are flagged in my team, for example, or the likes of Sterling, Rashford, who are also flagged, they may end up playing in Game Week 9. So bear that in mind. But it is important to have a plan and to try stick to it. So if, for example, in UCL Fantasy, I had a wildcard draft, which I was prepared to use. And then I thought, you know what, I actually have a good team and, I don't want to use it. But in the end, more, rotation and injuries and stuff like that forced me into using my wildcard. And just because I deviated just a little bit in terms of the defence from what my original plan was, I ended up losing up to 20, 30 points. So it's important to have a plan and stick to it. So you're already prepared by, let's say, Friday and Saturday, after all the press conferences are done, and you have an idea of who's going to play, who could play and stuff like that. And if most of your players are out, you can just activate that wildcard. However, if you're like me and you've already played your wildcard and you have to take hits to maybe gather a full 11, which is pretty, it's pretty rough, then these are some of the players I would suggest going for. Just like in my last video, in my Game Week 9 transfer plan video, and also the video where I covered Game Week 8 and how that went, some of these players are similar. So the likes of Kufal and Cancelo are here, but what I will say about Cancelo now, which has changed since obviously I recorded my last video, is that Mendy is back in training, so Cancelo could lose his spot, and rotation risks, especially in defence, and at that price, it's just something you don't want. You don't want headaches, because then that's probably another transfer waiting to happen. So he's just in there at the moment, and he's probably not someone I'll get in now. I think Kufal is more likely to come in, probably for Robertson, but it also depends in my case between Robertson and Chilwell, who is out for a longer time. Of course, I would prefer having Chilwell in the long term. He's better value for money at the moment this season, and Liverpool have more problems defensively, more injuries, so that also kind of plays a part. But yeah, depending on who is injured for a longer time, they will probably be replaced by Kufal, and it could be by this week for a -4. That could happen, unfortunately. In terms of other defenders, as you see on screen, Zuma, very good pick. There's Reece James, who I got rid of on a wildcard. He's been playing every week since, and he's been doing very well. Walker-Peters, Vestergaard, you've got Kilman, even Mings, Konsa. However, I think the best Aston Villa defender for sure is Matt Targett, who's actually, been one of the most creative players for Villa. He even got an assist against Arsenal, and 4.5 million, you can't really go wrong there. Even if you have a double up with Martinez, with the fixtures they have, and I'll just show you very quickly, very good fixtures up until game week 15. So yeah, I think it could be worth it. It's pretty much a long-term pick if you go for someone like Matt Targett to couple alongside with Martinez. So those are some of the players that I suggest you could go for. There's also James Justin, but Pereira, there's always that doubt in my mind, which is why I got rid of this guy on a wild card. That Pereira could be back soon, and he keeps getting delayed and delayed. He was supposed to be back already, but I think he's reported to be back by December, which is in a few game weeks' time, but will he even be back by then? Who knows? Castagna should be back by the international break, or after the international break finishes, but we'll have to wait and see there. but he's still an option if he keeps his place. We'll have to wait and see. Lamptey, who I got rid of ever since he got 9 and 6 points, so he's another one you could go for. And from Brighton, I would not consider anyone else. Lamptey is the only player I'd probably go for. But yeah, there's a lot of options in defence. I know some of you like the look of Bellerin, who's got a bit of assist potential. He can win penalties and he can get some double-digit hauls every now and then. But I just think it's a bit too inconsistent. You look overall, yeah, he's got 2 double-digit hauls, but he's pretty much blanked in every single other game apart from Fulham. So it's not someone I would go for, and I wouldn't go for any Arsenal defender. As an Arsenal fan over the years, I know not to trust Arsenal defence. Arteta has shored up the defence apart from the Aston Villa game, but still can concede one stupid goal towards the end or something like that, so I wouldn't really go near an Arsenal defender at the moment. But the defence is probably the least worrying. In terms of the midfield, obviously with Salah, like I said, he'll probably only miss this week, so I would keep him. That's my opinion. But if you want to get rid of him, then of course, in terms of the standout options, there is Mane, which is a like-for-like replacement, but there's also Bruno Fernandes, who's got the fixtures. He's got West Brom next, so he's someone you could go to and captain. But with Bruno, it's mainly his away form that is very impressive. So against Southampton and West Ham, you could probably expect more returns in those games than against West Brom at home. But we'll have to wait and see what happens there. But Bruno from Man United, in my opinion, is by far the best option from that team. We'll have to wait and see. Rashford is good value, but he is an injury concern. What a surprise. And also, I just think Bruno for that extra million, I think he went up in price. He had to 10.6. He is worth it. He's on penalties. He also can get assists. He's a bonus points magnet. He's the main guy for Man United. And just away from home, he has never blanked in his whole career in the Premier League so far. So yeah, this guy is the real deal. So that's someone you could go to. There's also Mane, like I said. Sterling, if he's fit, he's another one. But of course, why would you want to do that? There's obviously Son, as you see on screen. James Rodriguez, who's got a few good fixtures up until game week 12. Jack Grealish is definitely someone you want to have in your team. There's also Zaha, who's actually pretty good value. But of course, in terms of premium players, I think Bruno is the standout replacement for Salah if you don't have him already. There's also KDB. Don't forget him too, of course. But obviously my original plan was to get in Ziyech in for Rodriguez pretty much, or Son, within the next few game weeks, and then I could get in Bruno Fernandes shortly after that. But if I want to do those two moves and also getting the likes of Kufal and maybe replace my striker, Wilson if he's injured, then that's a lot of hits. Maybe just for this week or for next week, but there's still a lot of hits, which is very unfortunate. But I may just take all these hits in a week and whatever and pretty much just push on from there and have a solid team. But with this season, more injuries happening than ever, more COVID cases, it's just, it's unpredictable, and even more luck is involved, in my opinion. Now, as for the other striker that you see, in my case anyway, forget Jarrett Bowen, Bamford is a potential option. He's gone up in price since my last video to 6.1 million, but the alternatives are Che Adams and Watkins in my case. Obviously, Wilson is someone I would prefer to keep, and hopefully he is fit, because I think Wilson can do very well, especially with the fixtures that he has. But otherwise, those 3 strikers I mentioned, there's also Kane, Calvert-Lewin. I think they're the standout striker options this year, especially around that price bracket. So those 6 strikers, so these 3, also Callum Wilson that you see, Che Adams and Ollie Watkins, I think they're the best choices you can get up front. And having a strike force of 3 is probably ideal. But yeah, I'll have to wait and see. I hopefully Wilson plays against Chelsea, or he's back by game week 10, and I don't really have to take a hit here. But yeah, what I'm trying to say in this case is that I could actually take a -8 or something like that. I don't want to take even more than that. That would be even more overkill, and obviously, it would damage me even more in the long term and in the short term. But getting some of these players in would be, ideal. Like I said, in my case, Salah, he's someone I want to keep even if he's missing this game week. But Bruno is someone I would like to get in the near future. Also, the likes of KDB potentially, if not Bruno, and Ziyech. And then if I need a striker, I'll get him, and Kufal for my defence. So I'm going to try limit game week 9 to -4 and -8 hits. But obviously, no guarantees, anything can happen, and especially with all the injuries that are happening right now. I'm not trying to be negative or cynical, but more of these players that you see on screen and more of your players and more players in general can get injured, can drop out because of COVID. So it's a very, very precarious situation. And yeah, that's why you've got to be flexible. You've got to have a plan. And I'm planning to stick to it, of course, but I'm being flexible. And instead of taking the hits further down the road in game weeks 10, 11, 12, I may take them now. That's the problem with international break. That's the problem with making early transfers. And that's something I'm probably going to avoid for the rest of the season because I've done it once and I've learned the hard way. And hopefully you haven't, but yeah, that's just how the cookie crumbles at the moment. But yeah, if you have any suggestions in terms of replacements and what you would do with the likes of Salah, Chilwell, Robertson, Sterling, Wilson, I mean, I'm losing count, Rashford, so many players, but let me know down in the comment section below. There's so many things that we have to manage this season, and I think it takes even more luck and maybe even more skill and patience to kind of get out of these tight situations that we have with our FPL teams and all these injuries and stuff. But hopefully you get through this without taking too many hits, but if need be, just take them, and if not, play your wild card potentially. But like I always say, just wait until the press conferences, until the Friday, and see what the managers say, and then after that you can make an even better informed decision, and you maybe have a better idea of who's going to play, who's definitely not going to play, and who could play, which is very important. But thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, smash the like button, subscribe if you're new, and I'll be posting my final team in the community tab, so subscribe to the channel and you will see what my final team is. Do I end up taking a -4, a -8, a -12? Do I end up doing nothing and just leave it as it is? Well, you just have to wait and find out. But hopefully all these injuries and stuff and COVID cases aren't serious and they can play by the next game week. But realistically, if you have like 5 doubts, one of them at least is probably not going to play. So yeah, just keep an eye on that. Wait for the press conferences. Be patient and don't make early transfers because they can force you into a wild card or force you into taking hits, and that's not ideal at all. You don't want to let, injuries and stuff, dictate you using a wild card, which is a very important tool. But yeah, it's a very, very weird season. Hopefully game week 9 doesn't bring more of these injuries, but there's nothing we can do really. It's outside our control, and maybe FPL will address this in future, I don't know, with more free transfers, but I very much doubt it for some of you who have been contemplating that sort of thing. But thank you for watching this video, and I'll see you next time.